Hi and welcome to the Lifestyle League. My name is Host Mafokate and I'm chilling with none other than Phindile Duma. You're used to thousands and thousands of people cheering at you, and today it's like a few people.
You have to get used to everything, small numbers, big numbers, Yeah, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Siyabonga.
Yeah.
We've been searching for you awutholakali ne?
Hey guys, it's busy. It's like siyazama, sibamba ngapha nangapha. A person is always occupied with something.
Ne?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I always ask myself, when you've been so popular, you've been making headlines and suddenly you just disappear as Sakboni. What do you do and how's life after being where you are and where you are now?
Okay, so it's just that, I decided to take a setback after my football playing career because unfortunately for some of us, I had to stop playing at a very young age due to the fact that we didn't have payments or salaries, or we couldn't make anything out of playing football in the country during my playing days. So I literally had to stop playing, get a job somewhere, because I had to take care of my family. Because they were complaining, okay, so you've been playing all these years, we know you've played for the national team, you've been going around here and there, but there's no money coming in. And there's siblings, so what do we do? Because each time we have to give you money to go and play. The last team I played for was Sundowns in Mamelodi, and we used to travel in Stimela sometimes, because of financial issues, and there was no payments. I didn't even finish the season at Sundowns. I was there for a couple of months and I had to stop playing, go work for MTN, and just so that I could make a living, to support my family.
The period you played for the national team,
Yes.
Which era was it?
Oh, it was back then. And I played for the national team when I was very young.
Remember there was an era Yabu Gloria Shalele?
Yes.
And there was another era Yabu Poshia?
Yes.
Which?
I can say I was at the time when I played I stopped playing at the time when Uposha started playing for the senior national team.
Yes. Okay.
So I was, because I'm younger than them,
Yes. Yes.
So I played Guma Junior. I played Gunaiki, I played for the province. So it was, and at that time, women's football was not even on TV. You know what I mean?
That's why the only name I remember quite well was Gloria Shalele.
Yeah, but in Soweto back in the years when I was still playing, I was one of the best, because Ama League games was Soweto at the time, they were played in one venue. So all the teams from Soweto, Phindile, Middlelands, Bomama Sunlight, Bontate Mkwena, we used to go to one venue. So all the players from Soweto at the time, we knew each other. And now I can say I was one of the best defenders for Soweto, who age group at the time.
But so, the captain, my captain.
Bengu captain, Baba.
Captain. You know what's the funniest thing? Why I'm laughing? I'm looking at the height and I'm thinking of players like Tso Vilagazi.
Yes.
Those defensive people. You look at Marco.
Yes.
Marco, is a defender, but he's short.
Yeah. And then now
How do you guys cope being short and having to play such roles?
No, it's all about hard work. As short as I am, I've never been a small person body-wise. I've always, been this full volume yana.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I used to work hard. I used to train hard. And that gave me actually, a competitive edge. It made me to stand out from the rest of the players at the time. So it was really dedication, commitment, and working hard, making sure that your speed is on point, your speed, your strength, your endurance, your technique, everything. So I was just a fully fledged player who was strong enough to play center back.
How do you get into football? What inspires you to get into football?
Okay, so growing up from Soweto Township, I had cousins who used to play soccer, like my cousin Nkulego. He's very popular as well for being a soccer player, but he didn't make it to my PSL teams. But he used to come home, angvakashele Mfulo, sitati bola during our spare time after doing our chores.
Was it Mfulo South Central?
Mfulo village, Ngakashabalala. So we play Jardine, that's how I got to be introduced to soccer. But before soccer, I used to be a volleyball player. And I did very well for myself, but because there was no volleyball teams in Soweto, I decided, I don't want to sit around and laze around after school and weekends. I want to play sports. And the only sport that was accessible at that time in Soweto was soccer. So then I played soccer. Yeah, that is how I got into soccer. And because I've always been ambitious to say, I don't just want to be an ordinary player. I want to play for the national team. So then I worked towards it, like literally. And I got to it, yeah.
And when you're playing football at that point, I'm sure you're not even thinking about money. It's all about the fame that you get at that particular time. Because you're not even looking at football for ladies as being a career.
Yeah, so for me at the time, look, you have to imagine, Arthur, I was very young. Mina national team ngidlalela ku Nike lapha when we represented South Africa USA, it was 99. It was ibekwe squad sama under 15.
Yo.
Besibancane. So you didn't care about money. You just wanted to see yourself nje, doing something great.
Being in that photo that appears in the paper.
Yeah, and we had our coach Phidile at that time. She was our assistant manager, about Gloria Brown. She was also there, about coach Opa. So for us, it was just really about getting into it, and just making something out of it, So sports really gave me that mentality and that attitude to say, in life, you've got to have a vision. At that age, I was in line with myself to say, I have a goal. I have to work towards it. And that's what sport does. Sports does that for you. Sports gives you an opportunity to be able to say, I'm someone. I'm not just a nobody. I'm a brand. I want to get somewhere. I want to represent my country. So at that time, I had that in me.
And a lot of people don't understand. I always say, because I played football, I always say the fact that we all did it, and we gained something out of it. It was not even just too much about money. It was about going out there, being a star, and obviously learning the life skills that it teaches you. More than any other thing. Like you said, it helped you be the hustle,
most definitely.
hustle lady that you are now. So how do you end up going to Sundowns? Because a lot of people think, yes, Sundowns look like it's a new team, but a lot of people don't know that Sundowns has always had a female team.
Sundowns, for me to play for Sundowns, in fact, I didn't really want to play for Sundowns. But due to the fact that I was studying at UNISA, and we used to go mostly to Pretoria and what have you. So one of my friends who's a former player for Sundowns, when Coach Anna at the time was the coach at Sundowns, Daisy from Central Soweto, said to me, no, but Phindi, why don't we just come with me to Sundowns? Because I can see now you are no longer playing, you are busy with school and it's taking up your time. At least we can be busy in Pretoria, Masia Skole, and we can always go. And also it's a good team, and you've always played for Fair Ladies. All your life you've been playing for Fair Ladies. Hey, just change, I was like, oh yeah, why not, But also we knew Guti Sundowns was a big club.
But by then it was not under Motsepe, right?
No. That was before Motsepe took over the club.
It was the Zola Mahobe days or even before.
Sundowns ladies has been there for long.
A lot of people don't know. They think it's a new thing now. I mean, looking at Pirates and Chiefs now, they still don't even have the ladies teams.
And, those are some of the things that for some of us, we feel, being a legend. And that is why I'm so involved now in development. And I'm trying to breed and produce coaches, female coaches also in the township to say, let's have big clubs outside of Pirates and Chiefs that can come out from the township, especially from the female side. And as it is in Soweto, we don't really have a lot of teams. We don't even have a lot of teams showing up Google PSL side, Yamantomazan.
But wouldn't you say it's because everybody looks at this thing as a business now, and sometimes it takes also the passion away, because now if I have to go form a team in the township, people are expecting monies and all those things, and we are now scared to even go contribute in such things. Wouldn't you say that is a problem?
Look,
because me and you now can sit and say, let's go form a team.
Yeah.
But then the stars are going to say, but Phindile no Athaba Phidile. Wouldn't you say that's the challenge with Chiefs and Pirates not wanting to go there, because then it deviates them from their core business?
No, I don't think. I think it's just a thing, Yoguti. We need to review the way we define, the world of sports, especially football in our community, in our country. Because I can tell you now, Arthur, Amateam Afana Nabo Kaizer Chiefs, Nabo Pirates, they've got the necessary muscle and ability.
Do you think so?
No, I mean, they've got infrastructure, they've got resources, they've got systems that can allow.
Aren't people saying Saleng is complaining because of money?
Yeah, but that's another thing. That's
Exactly. Because I always say to people, you think Pirates and Chiefs have got that muscle. They have, but I mean, if they think they are doing well with a player like Saling and Saling still complains, doesn't that say something about the resources of these teams? I mean, you're looking at Sundowns, it's like a billionaire team, and then you're looking at your TS Galaxy, which is here. And you look at TS Galaxy having a female team, you're asking yourself one question: is TS Galaxy going to sustain for the next 10 years?
Look, it's really a question of what systems do we introduce into the entire operational system of sports development in the country to make sure that there's sustainability on all levels? Because remember, sports is different. There's development sports, grassroots sports, and there's competitive sports. Good development sports, the issues of finance and what have you, they are not really.
I like playing there on the development one.
Yes.
I'm sure that's where you are now.
Yes.
That's why it's easy for me and you
Yes.
to speak out and
Yes.
express all these things.
Yes, yes.
What's the role you are playing now on development sports?
In terms of development, I've really always had a passion to say, so when I went to the US in 99 to represent South Africa, I was a young girl, but what I saw there when I got to Nike, because we're at the Nike headquarters in Beaverton, that is where the World Cup was held. I saw a community, a large group of children from the age of 7, 9, I think, walking onto the Nike field, dressed up all in Nike gears from head to toe. And I was like, but why don't we have this in our country?
Is it not because we are not speaking out? We don't have platforms like this where we express ourselves and put it on record? Because I feel like mainstream media as well is channeled into thinking in a certain way. They celebrate you when you are somebody, and when you are nowhere, they just keep quiet about you. And that's why we have such problems, because then no one says anything about any issue.
Yeah, Angithi, that is exactly what I'm trying to say, Uguti. For me, the reason why especially through the work that I do now, I focus more on township and rural development when it comes to sports. And that
Do you have support?
Well, at this moment, Ingane is support. It's not
Exactly.
sufficient to can say, you know what, we can do justice, we can do wonders, because at this point, grassroots development, especially for females in the townships and rurals, is very poor. In fact, ayiko. You will never find a team. Right now, you can go to Soweto or anywhere in the country. You will never find more than 5 or 3 ladies teams from the township or rural who has development that will say we've got a girl child who under 9. We've got a girl child who under 11. We don't have such teams. If you have to host a tournament for females in the country, it will most likely be AMA first teams. AMA juniors, they're not taken care of. And that is where Tina want to focus to say, let's start developing players from the age of 7. The girl child, let's teach them in masses so that we can be able to say as a country we're investing, we are plowing back and we're making sure that the future is bright. Because for one to start playing at the age of 12, 13, then a lot of people start playing sports when they are way older. A lot of girls, they don't start playing when they're young in the townships and rurals.
So is the issue corporate business, government, or the community?
Okay, I'll tell you, it starts from the community, but I will also say, I'm not going to say government or in government, but I will say the education system. When you go to the townships, we are introducing a system where we are saying we need to have coaches in the township schools. We're doing that in Soweto now. Through my foundation, we've got schools that we are working on where we're doing sports development, primary schools and high schools. Okay? You don't have that. If you go to a school now, drive around in the suburbs or anywhere in the urban area. When you go during interval time or after school, you'll find young people playing sports. You drive past Rodin, you'll find sports is there, it's alive, it's kicking. There's everything happening, the infrastructure is booming, everything is there. But when you go to the township, it's still the old apartheid system that was introduced during the apartheid era to say, abantu abamnyama, they shouldn't flourish. Abantu abamnyama, they shouldn't get access to opportunities as zobanika amathuba going forward in their lives. So I will also blame our department, because if you are not investing in that part, because when you talk about sports development in a school's context, I've worked for private schools, I've worked for public schools, I've worked in many institutions. I've worked for Kalagabushe Ejele. I've worked in many places in the rurals. I can tell you now, you need to make sure that you have systems that says umntwana every grade. When you talk about sports, is not just for the competitive people who can go to USA, who can go to London. Sports is an instrument of learning to say what are the attributes that you gain and that you learn when you're involved in sports. And
So in short, we can also say sports is a life skills development tool.
most definitely, that is what it
Because
is.
we're not saying everybody that's playing at that particular age and time is going to be a star.
Exactly.
But it teaches you something about responsibility.
Exactly. And that is why when you go to the private schools, when we train kids, like I used to work for Yeshiva and other private schools, they come as a grade to the playing field. They don't come as a group of good players who are identified to say, Hambani no Jimedi school, you are under 12 for the school, and then you find that out of 1,000 learners, only 20 learners represent or get an opportunity in a minority situation. It should say that every grade, every week goes to the field. They get a proper coach like Upindi or Ruata, who's a qualified, well-experienced coach, passionate about sports development, who's going to train them.
Two things I need to touch on. Your coaching, are you qualified? Two, your organization. Because those are critical things that we need to discuss now, because there's potential here. There's an organization that's existing. The organization has got professionals. Yes. Where to from here? Hence I'm saying, tell us about the organization first.
To answer your question, yes, I am a coach, a qualified coach, a very well-experienced coach. I think I'm one of the best female coaches that you'll find in the country. And it's my work there to tell you that I've coached grassroots soccer at the Nike Center when grassroots was still at Nike. I was head coach at grassroots. I came in and did wonders. Everywhere where I've coached,
The Nike Center in Phindile?
Yeah. I've coached at Yeshiva at Glen Hazel in Sandringham. I was the first female coach to help a male side win after 8 years. Those boys, they played together from grade R. I got them when they were in grade 8, and Yeshiva employs quality coaches from all over the continent. I was the first person to help that side win. After 8 years, they've had coaches from left, right, and center. They never won a single match. They only experienced winning a match with Coach Pindi, a Yeshiva. I went to Kalagabush.
So Yeshiva is an institution or?
Yeah, it's a Jewish school.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in Glen Hazel, Sandringham.
And you made it
Yeah.
when?
Yeah. This was, I think it was 2017 or 2016 when I was working for Yeshiva.
Yeah.
But it was just to make money so that I could support the work I was doing
Yeah.
in the township, because at the same time, I was volunteering and doing sports administration for one of the high schools in Soweto, Ilufense, during that time. So I really got to understand, you know what, because at the time it was clear to me, good, there's something wrong with our education system. Why can't I work in the township and be a qualified coach and get a salary and get pension fund and what have you? Why do I have to work in the suburbs for me to earn a salary? All good coaches are in the suburbs. You don't find them in the township.
I was going to say that I remember, in my early stages in music, and there was a boy, that I used to say, this boy is a star. Ashley Makanya.
Yes.
And Ashley Makanya, for him to make it, he was in our street.
Yes.
He had to go play for some Portuguese team somewhere, and that team took him to vets.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. We all know who Ashley Makanya is.
Yeah.
But he was a star in the township, and had that team not grabbed him, he wouldn't have been anywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe there should be a synergy between, I would call them the not rich in a bad way, but those that can afford needs to find a way of synergizing with you guys from the townships.
Tina, for me, Athane, and this is an oath that I took about 4 to 5 years ago, to say, I don't see the need for me to be working, because you see, I take my skills. I mean, I was produced. I'm a product of Ukochi Mpom Hlapis from Epiri. For 7 years, I played for his team. That guy invested in me as a young girl. I cannot take all the investment that the guy made in me and go and plow it in another community and neglect my very own township. So this culture that coaches, people are running away from addressing the problem to say, guys, we've got a challenge in the country. Why is it that you can't work in the township and do well for yourself? Because then there's no money for you. That's why you find the coaches and people are leaving the township to get a better life.
Hence, I'm saying maybe there needs to be synergies, because We do hear about overseas teams coming to invest in South Africa. Recently, I think it's Real Madrid.
Yes, I saw.
Yes, Real Madrid has got an institution
I
in this
saw,
country.
yeah.
So I'm saying, what stops us in the townships from synergizing with the corporates, the ones from the that are funded by the corporate world, because we know where the money is residing.
Yeah.
And yes, you might call it selling out and whatever, but how do we find a common ground between the two?
Okay, for me, so we said as a foundation, we're not going to leave the township. We're not going to go and work in the suburbs so that we can make money for ourselves and our families and neglect an entire community of Soweto, you know.
What's the name of the foundation?
Phindile Duma Sports Foundation.
Yes, because we need to stress that.
Yeah, no.
That people should understand
No,
that the Phindile Dumas Foundation is focused on developing grassroots township kids.
Definitely.
When you come to them, you should understand that Phindile Duma
Yeah.
Foundation is focused on an African child
Yes.
that's there in the township
Yeah.
that cannot afford to go to the suburbs.
Exactly, exactly. We're taking the skills and the service that we have to them. That is our focus. And I must say that it's not an easy journey because one, the Department of Education will say to you, we're not going to pay you. We are in partnership with the department. And the agreement was that we're not going to ask for any money from the schools. So the onus is on us to say, as a foundation, let's get money. And we said we know. I mean, we've been working in the schools, we know. We had to go and work in other places to go and support our programs in the past. So it's only last year that we said, no, let's partner with the department so that at least we can also
Here
be
in
line.
Gauteng.
Yeah, in Soweto.
Yes.
Yes.
But
So-
the advantage now with the department is they also incorporated with sports, arts and culture, right?
Yeah, no, they do have
Yes.
that establishment. But look at that, it's not enough. And I'm going to also say, in the number of years I've worked in the townships and the rural setups, parental involvement is not there for abantwana. You know, you run a program, you ask for contributions from the parents. I'm telling you, it's difficult because our community, our parents from those communities don't understand the importance of saying, okay, remember the education is free. So when you start coming and you say, hey, bazali, uyazi ukuthini sifuna abantwana bagqoke kahle man.
But you know what's the funniest thing? For most of us that are taking our kids to these schools in the suburbs,
Yeah.
we pay higher fees than those ones.
Yeah, Akere, that's the thing. We're not going to be like Arthur and shy away from the problem and say, no, me now take my child to a better school and give my child it. Because even the educators themselves in the public school, in the township schools, in those schools, their kids are not in those schools. They take their kids to those schools in those other areas because they know the system is better. So Tina, we're saying we're going to change the system. We're going to change the system. Look, this year.
This makes me emotional because they're kids.
Yeah, it's and let me say this, ne Athane, it's not just sports. It's also art. You know why? Art is also another instrument of learning.
You know there are kids I'm sponsoring in Limpopo right now.
Yeah.
They don't have soccer boots.
Exactly. No.
Yesterday I was asking their coach again because I saw a video and
Yeah.
I chased.
Yeah.
I found out.
Yeah. Can I say something? I was also in Limpopo. In fact, we have an interest, or we've been in contact with one of my other comrades from another structure from the Yali network that I belong to. I'm alumni of the Yali Young African Leaders Initiative. So there's a lady who's also based in Limpopo. I was there to support one of the events. I think it
Did you
was
see
last
how
year.
painful it is there?
Listen, we were at this event at a hall, ne?
Even yesterday I called him and said, are you sure my kids are fine? I've
No.
never met those kids, but it was just painful.
No,
you look at the passion of the township kids, and those ones are not even township, it's
Yeah.
rural kids.
I was there. I mean, I was there. They were playing a league, or it was a very well organized sort of like game. I think it was a league game or it was a tournament. They were playing barefooted.
That's
I
what
lost
I
it.
saw.
I lost it, and I said, at this day and age in democracy, or at this time in South Africa, we still have young people. Because if umntwana edlala sports, Arthur, and you don't support umntwana in something as good as sports, what is this child then supposed to do? What will it take for this child to get attention and support from the community, from the parents, from the leaders? Because we've got leadership in so many areas and so many levels in this country. And South Africa is not a poor country, because the future of our country is in their hands. If we don't invest whatever we have to make sure that they can take care of the country when you are no longer here, what is going to happen?
And we're not saying support because we're saying these kids are going to be stars. Because even the ones I'm buying boots for,
Yeah.
I've never even seen, I don't even know whether they score goals, they defend well or what. But imagine if all of us could contribute to these kids. Because it
Exactly.
also builds their confidence.
Exactly, and that is what we are fighting with. That we also advocate for township and rural sports development through my foundation. It's a thing that we are fighting for, to say, for me to work in the rural setups. I went there specifically because I wanted to also understand what are the challenges that they are having on the ground there, and it's worse. If you compare the rural to the township, it's worse. You get to some facilities, there's no water. Some areas, there's just no infrastructure for sports development. Because sports, you've got to have infrastructure. If you don't have infrastructure, where are you going to play tennis if you don't have a tennis court? How are you going to play basketball if you don't have a basket? It's not like soccer where you can just play anywhere. You understand? And those are the areas and the things that I've identified throughout my journey of doing this work, to say, what is the problem in the country? We are still sitting on an apartheid system that we need to adjust the system.
And when we speak out, we seem like we are bitter people.
No, we're not bitter people, guys. This is our country. We're passionate about our country. I'm passionate about South Africa. I don't just like kids because they are abantwana basekhaya, ingane zakaMalume. No, every child is your child. And you've got to have national pride. You understand? Country. If we don't look out for each other as a nation, who's going to look out for us? We laugh at each other. We play each other down. As long as minangi right, everything is fine. And unfortunately, I'm not built like that. That's why I'm running. I had an offer. I remember one of the alumni from Yali, she was here. Ukutsa. She's like, Pindi, we're looking for a coach, University of Mississippi.
What is Yali?
Young African Leaders Initiative.
Okay.
She said, Pindi, the University of Mississippi, I'm studying there. They're looking for a coach. She spoke to me. I was like, I can't leave the country when things are like this. I have to create opportunities for other young people.
But what if you leave and make the money and come invest it back?
No, I have to make the money whilst I'm working here, because my presence are also important.
So your mentality is like mine.
My presence are also important.
Yeah, but sometimes, I feel like we are also cowards, because then you could go make a lot of money and come back and invest it back.
No, we'll go and make the money. We'll go out and we'll look for investors to come and plow back in our community. That's what we're going to do.
And have you ever engaged former international players? Because there's a lot of international players that have left the country and they came back, and I never really see the investment in the development. And I'm not pointing fingers, but I feel like if most of them could come together, they might do something good.
Yeah, because that is where the challenge sits. It's not everyone who has it in them to say, you know what, let's look out for a collective. I could run a club, like a small club, and have 50 players and become popular. Like I'm a strong coach. Coach, there's a correctional center in Pangeni. I was called by the department, the police. They said, come, we've got a squad, King Treasury District, that's going to play at Tegwin. Come and coach our guys. It's men like you. Men. I went and coached them. Yeah. So I look, and when the other centers were coming to play there, because they were used to whipping them and what, they said, you are the coach. I was like, yes. They're like, today we're going to show you, you are going to see flames. Today we're going to whip you.
And there's this other female coach, the former Banyana. I think she's also a TV presenter.
Yes. When during our playing days, mina ngikhumbula bebambiza uShoti.
Yeah.
Because I remember sidlala nabo lapha
eRaw.
Yeah. Where you Raw, Raw. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think she's doing well for herself. I think she's on it, very informative about the game. But
she's part of under 17 or under 20?
She works also for the national team. I don't want to work for the national team. I want to solve this problem that we're having in our communities.
So you want to focus on
Baba, this thing is eating me up. Each time I walk around in the township and I see a young girl and a young boy, they don't have coaches, they're just running around, they go to school Monday to Friday. They're not getting the attention that you can't learn Gamnandi if you don't play hard. Part of learning is physical education is part of learning. And how do you develop grass motor skills if you don't do sports? And a sport is a fun way of learning. But the government in our country is taking that responsibility of training and coaching and giving it to the teachers who are bombarded with curriculum development activities that they still need to see to. You can't sit in a classroom with 50 to 40 kids from 8 o'clock until 2 o'clock. So
and still coach them well.
Then you still have to go to the field, then you have to do a better job. No, that's why private schools, they call us and they say, come Phindi, here's your contract, we'll pay you 15,000 per month, 20,000, whatever they're going to pay you. Please, you come for 2 hours, you coach our kids. They know the value behind a well-established person who's going to do the job, because sports is a subject on its own. You can't just, why can't Rulani run whatever business and then go and be a coach? You understand?
Because it's not easy.
Because you've got to focus. There's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of things that you need to pay attention to if you are running a team. Now, I'm talking about just 20 players. Now, in a school's context, every learner must go to the field, akumule ichuni kumtwana, akumule i-white shirt, afake i-t-shirt, afake short, afake amateki or ama-soccer boots, angene groundini, akhohlwe ngeyinkinga, adlale sports. A resuscitate kumntwana. Yabona, even whatever stresses they are having, and they become healthy because they are running, you see. Like they become these kids now, because our kids now, they smoke baba, they drink savannah, bayajola, they are bored at school. They are bored, they go to class, and they don't like maths and science, some of them, they are just doing it because, what can I do, I'm told. And even the style of learning, you can imagine they are bunched up in the classroom, we are shisa, and then they smoke their weed because they really can't deal with the situation. Young girls and boys in our townships, before they go to school, they go to the parks, wherever, they smoke weed. You know why? Because they don't like school. It's not fun for them. But we need to change that. We can't complain anymore. And that is why the foundation is here to say, we are here and we are appealing to every sector, to the government, to the business people of this country, to say, please assist us. Because we need a significant budget. Because I don't want my coaches to go for 6 months being a holy. I used to work in the townships. We never got paid. For the number of years I've supported the schools in the townships, I've never got paid a salary. Some of the schools, I would be there the whole year, 7 to 3, every day, like every other person. I never got paid. I had to make money somewhere to go to that school to support them. Because I understand the kids need it. I got it. So I have to give it to other kids. And that is the mentality and the attitude that we need to adapt as a country to say, coaches in the townships, which coach do you know in the township who's coaching a local grassroots team who's doing well, who's got a car, they are poor. Our coaches are poor. Because no one is supporting them. The parents are not supporting them. The government is not. They're just doing a good job, but they're not getting the recognition that they deserve. And those are the things we need to change. So I know I'm not going to work for Sundowns or Pirates. I need to remain in the township and work towards solving these problems. And 2025 is the year.
Wow. Yeah. Like, I don't even know what to say. I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking, even the pros are not doing that, apart obviously from Peter Musimani with his foundation. And I'm sure he's trying to address the same issue as you.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here thinking, how do corporates get involved? How does government get involved? Because not everyone can be as brave as you and say, I need to keep it here.
Yeah, for me, I'm open for discussions. I'm open for suggestions. Anyone and everyone who's out there who says they believe. Let me give you an example, Atane. Chris Brown came to South Africa recently. How much were his tickets? I even heard DJs saying on TikTok, hey guys, my ticket Chris Brown are expensive. Who went to watch Chris Brown? It's the very community, our township community, our parents, our people, who see the value of going to watch Chris Brown overnight and pay 1,000 rands. But they don't see the value and the need to pay 1,000 rands for the development of their child. Coaches in the townships, because abazali, they don't acknowledge the coach and say, but this person is raising my child. My coach, today, it's only now that I'm old, I'm like, but this guy raised me, man. This guy, if it wasn't for this man, I wouldn't be the person that I am. And now he's part of my foundation. He's actually our programs manager, Coach Impo.
Wow.
That guy raised me, and this is my way of saying, Coach, for the number of years you've invested in me, I want to give you something. And that guy, he doesn't have a car anymore because we haven't got any capital into the foundation yet.
But he spent his life focusing on
He
your career.
spent his. I'm not the only one.
Yes,
There's a
that's
lot of
why
people.
you guys-
One of his products also, one of the Mamelodi Sundowns coach, Agnes, she was my teammate back in the years. I was her captain. You understand? Those are the people that need to go. I want to urge and encourage all the professional players of today to say, who was your coach when you were nobody? When you were still ulengamafinyela, when you were nobody, think about that person and say, but that's the person who saw something in me. So that one day, all the big clubs can take me on. So let's go back to those coaches and support them so that the township sports can rise to its feet. Because really, I mean, the way that sports is, guys, the complexion of sports manager is so way to infect in that, it's bad. It's
terrible.
No, we need to restore.
I mean, I was saying to somebody the other day that you even struggle to pinpoint a player from Soweto that plays for Pirates.
Yes.
Luckily, and maybe because of the parents, you then say at Chiefs there's Blom, there's Zwane, but the question is Zwane raised in Soweto? But at Pirates, who's a Pirates player from Soweto?
Yeah, no.
You get what I'm trying to say? That culture is going.
Yeah.
It keeps on diminishing and fading
And
away.
we can't allow that.
Yes.
No, we have
It
to
shouldn't
find
happen.
we have to find a way to restore. And the way we need to start is with the schools. Because remember, that is where you get in mass participation.
But have you approached the Joburg municipality and Gauteng province?
Okay, we have.
Because that's another thing with us. We complain, but we forget to submit proposals.
Yeah. No, remember with the Department of Sports, kuba ne window of
I
application.
know, but
so you have to wait for that
yes.
period.
And it happens once a year.
Yes. So with the foundation, before the foundation was officially registered, I think 3 years ago. From 2012 up until 3 years ago, we used to work, but we used to fund our own interventions, and the scale of work was a little. You understand? So I would like really literally adopt one school and would work with just one school, So now we saw with no man, if I'm busy with this school, what about all the kids in all the other schools? We can't.
And it pains you when you see.
Guys. And I remember when we had the meeting with the Department of Education to say, guys, give us at least 20 schools. They said, no, you don't have funding yet. What are you going to start this thing and it's going to fade off because you don't have money to sustain it yet. But I said, but we'll create value. We'll do so well that automatically this thing will attract investors and all that. But I also realized it's not just for us to say let's take the responsibility. We need the community to support. With the 4 schools we have, in fact it's not going to be 4, we're going to go for more schools. Because for me it's like I cannot afford to see so many young people fall into the pit of substance because they don't really have something substantial that they can do with themselves besides school.
And wouldn't you also say that we also confine this to just education and sports, whereas we still have social development, we still have that other department for youth? Aren't they also coming to the
We've applied with the social development. We don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to give us anything? Or look, Mina, I'm just going to say this. For us, and this is what we said to the Department of Education when we had the meeting with the district office, the officials there. We said, in fact, in the application when I submitted, I said, with or without the funding, we're going to work. So we have a significant number of young people in our communities who are unemployed, who are sitting. They wake up in the morning, bapemizol, apuze, shy round, ejola, abuya adle, alale, avuge weekend izawa, gazbanbane papi netaveni, kumnandi. That's their lives. Some of them have degrees, some of them have a PhD. Some of them are well qualified, but they end up losing because when you don't have a purpose in life, you are doomed. So we want to take on these young people. I want to have, in fact, by May, end of May, I need to have at least 350 coaches under my foundation. 350 coaches under my foundation, and that's a minimal amount. In Soweto, I'm going to have 350 coaches under my foundation.
I'm one of the most privileged people that have been in sports and been in entertainment.
Yes.
But you mentioned something that touched me, and I don't want to sound rude,
Yes.
but I want you to be brave and tell me the honest truth. Does some of our songs contribute to these kids doing what they're doing?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the videos, when you, I mean, if you sit, I'm not really a TV fan, but each time I sit in front of a TV screen and I switch on the music, the only thing you see is that, you see, the ass out, the tits are out, the bottles of champagne, the money, the weed. You see, it's always alcohol, something smoking, someone smoking something, you know, the tattoos. Yeah, but, I mean, we're not saying people shouldn't do what they want to do with themselves, but we need to really be careful as a nation to say, what is it that we're exposing our young people to? Because remember, a lot of people in the townships or in our communities are buying gadgets for their kids. Umzali manje, umntanakhe mayengena phone, it's a problem. You know, each and every child, every second child or every third child has a cell phone, and they've got access to Wi-Fi, and I mean, they can go online and check out porn. They've got Facebook accounts. You know, parents don't monitor those things. So abantwana, and because of the fact that Amati development in terms of what we are talking about, sports and arts in its form. You know, art is not just singing. I mean, there's other things you can do. You can dance, art. They don't have those things that are well constructed and organized that can capture their minds to say, at least in as much as I can watch this video, but I know majority of the time my mind is consumed by something constructive.
I asked you that question because the way you were raised and the way I was raised, we were driven by a certain motive to achieve certain things.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here and I feel like you are way more superior than me in thinking, because I'm starting to feel like I have to take certain blame for not saying something, because we know that the song liberated certain people and the song can also destroy.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, let me just pose this question to her and say, are we partly to blame? And if so, make me feel bad so that I'm able to, you get what I mean? Because I feel like this conversation is so touching and scary, because me and you are one day going to leave this world.
Yeah.
But then what would we be leaving behind?
Yeah.
How many of these kids would we have inspired to
Yes.
take on the baton and go further?
Yeah. And that is why you see the importance when I talk about, remember,
And it's even worse because some of you might even lose funding based on what's happening at the moment in the world.
Yes, yes, that's so true. And I mean, the reason why I'm saying to you right now, Athuguti, I mean, there's a time for everything. Even for myself, I had to go through so many things and work on so many platforms with so many people in so many different communities to get to the point where I am now. When I talk about the Young African Leaders Initiative, that was another platform that opened up my horizon to say, don't just focus in South Africa, Phindile. There's life outside of South Africa. There's an African continent which you are part of. I'm proudly African, and I don't want to lie. I mean, I'm for a united Africa, because I understand that we are where we are as a country, as a continent, because of the segregation and the separation that happened to us, you know. But then working on platforms like Aboyali, being a code leader where I was leading the groups who came to South Africa to learn, I could inspire and influence them to say, guys, listen, I introduced one movement where all the alumni from the different countries who came to South Africa, it's 14 countries, in fact, from the Southern African region, they were here, and I mentored them, and we did some work. They did work in Madagascar, in Mauritius, in Zambia, in Mozambique, and I said, guys, identify the challenges in your community. What is the social ill in your community? Okay, this is the social ill. Do you know what? You don't have to have anything and everything to do something about it. You just need to have the heart. Start with what you have. Create awareness campaigns. Do something, you understand? Because it's really about what is it that you can do at that time in your life where you are to change the narratives, you know, so that you can see the change you want to see. Because for us to sit and say, we're worried about the fact that there's no training and development in our public schools in the townships and the rurals, when we are not doing anything about it, what is the point? And the time for us to say, ubani nobani, our leaders in government, wada, not our leaders in our own right. So let's define the journey and say, Arthur, now that you realize, there's this gap, you understand? Because even in art, we have the muscle and the ability to view and readjust its direction, to say, no, we've been moving in this way, and we've seen, this thing is not taking us where we want to go. Yes, we need to have entertainment. I mean, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what investment are we making in the young ones? You see, so that they can receive this thing on a good, note, not in a way that they're receiving it now. Because, guys, abantwana manje Arthur, yo. Mina, that's why I'm not even leaving the township to go and stay anywhere in the suburbs. Because I feel like if
you are neglecting your own
if
people.
if I should move, then obviously I'm going to be somehow diluted. You understand? I will forget somehow about those problems, and I will not be so involved. You know what I mean? And I said, let me invest at least another 5 years, to see what changes can we bring about in this space, so that at least I can then say, hey, but at least I've contributed significantly. Ngiyabona manje. Nazi izikolo zaselokishini zonke ezinabaqeqeshi. Nazi izikolo because listen, it's not just sports, art. Umntwana mele afunde keyboard. Umntwana mele that's art. But abantwana bethu bazi art kuamapiano, kuyi hip hop, you understand? They don't know what art is broad.
Yeah.
You understand? A child should be able to play a drum. Umntwana mele akwazi ukudance. I mean, that's art. And we don't have those things are very casual in the public schools. It's like makuzoba ne heritage day, you see, mabazoyenza ma presentation. No, every week.
You can actually,
every week umntwana akadlala ibhola. Every week umntwana akaswing ibhat. Every week umntwana akaswing iracket. Every week umntwana akashaya drum.
It must be part of.
Yes, so that they can be happier souls.
Your role with Work Corner.
Yes.
I'm not too familiar, with what Work Corner is. Please take me through what Work Corner is.
Work Corner is a very, I can say, magnificent initiative. It's a movement. I recently joined Work Corner. I was actually appointed by one of the leaders within the structure of Work Corner. It's a women-centered structure.
What does it stand for? Because I always hear Work Corner, but I don't even know women something culture.
Yeah, no, it's women of all colors, women. It's a very diverse structure and group where there's different sectors represented within the institution, but it's women in business and leadership for the purpose of advancing the level of women in business and leadership in all sectors. To say, let each and every woman who's significant enough to undertake the role of leadership in business, to bring in a change in terms of investments and growth within the economy, so that women can be advanced and that women in the country can find their place, their rightful place in society. So it's a very good structure.
But are you aware how powerful that can be? Did you
It
ever
is powerful.
Yes, because
it is powerful.
I mean, looking at it, businesses at the moment.
Yes.
Businesses at the moment are looking to uplift women.
Yeah.
And here you guys are coming together and saying, here we are working together. Because that's the first thing, to do.
Yeah.
Coming together.
Yeah, Nami was when I was introduced to the structure, I was like very happy, when in the first meeting, when I heard them presenting, the ladies presenting, this one is from this sector, that one is from, it's almost every sector represented in that group. And I was like, yo, this is beautiful, to see women who are significant and who are driving a change and who are doing so well in terms of business development and boosting the economy with whatever interventions that they can come up with, and to see that it's a lot of us in this one
umbrella.
Yeah, so for me really my role with Iwe Corner, leading the sports portfolio, is to say what programs can we bring into the country in terms of sports development that can filter and support every woman in sports. And among it is sports, I'm not talking football, I'm talking sports.
And the general.
Yes, so that
can be swimming,
yeah,
can be
so
athletics,
that everyone
can
who's
be
already involved can benefit. Instead of duplicating our services or doing the same thing that is done on the ground, what is it that we can bring through Iwe Corner into the structure to the country and the continent that can boost the economy, in terms of business development and leadership? So I was like, oh yeah, no, infrastructure development is critical. We don't have proper infrastructure for sports development in the country. In the rurals and the townships, we don't have. If we have a sports center, it should be underdeveloped. If it's developed, it's not maintained. Then it goes back to being
dilapidated.
Exactly. So the idea is really to say, let's look into that. Let's see what we can do to make sure that each and every district in each and every province has a proper center where a girl child can get exposed to proper sports development and get proper training and get international opportunities and get national opportunities and just live, because sports is a beautiful thing. I don't want to lie. I mean, for
Definitely,
me,
I know.
I mean, guys. I mean, for me, you know, a lot of things now I learned when I was older, which, oh, there's this. Oh, I never got to witness those things. Sports captured me. You know, I was safe. Now I was a happy child, guys. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
I never even went to the doctor. I was never sick.
Yeah.
Because being cheap, being
I
fit.
always said that to people that I was never sick
Exactly.
because we were active.
Exactly.
If you're not dancing, you're playing football. If you're not
Exactly.
football, you are somewhere. But there was always activities, and the day was always shorter.
Yes.
The day is shorter when
and then you were never
active.
bored. You never
Yeah.
needed data. We are born.
Yeah.
Our kids now, they're always like, ba, 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 ba. You see, they're very strong here. But
I mean,
yeah.
I always wish, ne, I don't have a problem with people being strong here, ne?
Yeah.
But it would be nice in few years' time to hear that we are owning our own Facebook, our own TikTok. Then, you know, if
Innovation coming from
there's a
us.
way of ownership after all this investment, then it would
Yes.
be fine. But the question is, are we thinking that way or not?
Excuse me. I think, and that's the whole thing about, when I talk about school, Mankuluma ngesikolo, to say that is the first point of departure that we need to look into as a country. To say what resources and innovative solutions do we bring into that space to make sure that those things can happen, you know? Because if you talk about school, umntwana spends majority of the time, every child spends majority of the time at school. They wake up in the morning, they go to school, they come back late. Weekends, it's short. Then the next week, it's school for 5 days. Then it's 2 days at home, and there's no time, you're born, within the 2 days. Then it's school holidays, you want to do wada. So if a child can get a proper development, like an upskills type of thing, where they can get IT training, you know, so that they can be able to know systems development, technical support, wada, whether it's motor mechanic, then they can get art, then they can get sports. You're born to reach at a young age, before they even get to varsity. They're rich.
So at Work Corner, do you have any significant role or you're just a member?
No, I'm a leader of the sports sector.
Okay.
Yes,
So
currently.
what are the plans for
The
the
plans
young
are
people out
the
there?
plans are really to say let's upskill the sports sector for women in the country. Let's bring in investment, and we're not gonna rely on anyone to say when you must do it. As Work Corner, we're gonna do it. We're gonna have a group of young dynamic women who are capable, who will be led by the older, because in you know, even myself, I have a lot to learn, who are led by the older ones who came before us to say, guys, now we want to restructure this thing, we take a different turn in terms of sports development in the country and business in sports. Because a lot of women in sports now can't even sustain themselves, especially in the townships and rurals, because there's no money. So we want to say, how do we make sure that these people are able to even generate a revenue, they're able to contribute towards the economy, you know, business-wise. You know, how do you convert your sports activities so that it's able to form or become a business intervention that can sustain itself and you and everyone else that is a beneficiary of whatever you're doing. So
Oh, you can.
so it's really that, to say where there are gaps, because for me now, I don't see the need for me to be duplicating into that are happening on the ground. We need to identify the gaps.
So do people apply to be members, or you guys are just that structure that raises funds and then try and distribute
No,
it?
look, there we're within Work Corner itself, just like we are still somewhat at infant stage in terms of facilitating certain things. So we obviously going to be recruiting, but we are very strategic because we don't just want numbers.
Yes.
You understand? We will have.
You rather get the funding and distribute it to organizations that are
Yes,
relevant,
yes. But
rather
then-
than trying to have too much members and then
Then the focus for us within the Work Corner structure is to say, let's look into infrastructure development. Let's have a cohort of young, significant women in sports and business who can facilitate this process, so that we know who we are. Because if you look at issues of infrastructure development, that on its own, it's an investment, it's an asset, you know, and the way that we're going to do it is going to generate revenue for itself. So we won't have infrastructure that is neglected. You see, like in Nike is well maintained.
Hey, that one is proper.
Yeah, so we want, no, but we need to have more of that.
Yes.
Why must we only have one Nike center in South Africa?
Yes.
Why must, I'm going to go to Nike sometime during the year and have a meeting with them to
And
say,
you know
guys,
what's the funniest thing? You have a township that's alleged to be having or claimed to be having 3 million residents, and you look at a country like Botswana or Namibia,
yes,
they have less than 3 million
Small
population,
countries.
but then they have a lot of resources. And then you ask yourself, why does Soweto only have one good resource?
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing. Uguri, there has to be someone who's going to look into that for that to change. For everything that you see now,
Yes.
someone sat down and said, but Mall of Africa was not here many years ago when I was still staying in here and working for Vodacom.
Yes.
You know, someone thought about it. No, but we need to have a more. This place is good enough. I mean, this is a fertile land for business development, Midrand. You know?
Do you guys have stats? Like, let's say as Workona or your organization, do you have stats to showcase these numbers and say, this is why we want this?
Yeah, of course, you've got to research. I mean, for you to come to a conclusion to say, this is what's needed and this is what I need to do, you've got to go through a process of research. And I mean, I'm fortunate because for the past 12 years, I've been on a research journey.
You sound like a very learned person. You're well-spoken.
Oh, thank you.
And you sound like a good resource for the country.
Thank you.
So
I'm honored. Thank you
how
so much.
have you achieved that? You know,
Hard work.
it's just me on a personal note
Hard work,
thinking,
Arthur. Hard
this
work.
woman really knows her story.
Hard work and passion. Passion, but also it's also a calling. Even if you are called to doing something, you can't divorce yourself from it. So for me now, I think also upbringing. Pilatina's coolest shy, you couldn't just nje. You see, like now you know.
Yeah.
With us, you had to have a certain level of discipline, and discipline was the key. And you passion driven, you know. So I mean, even people like yourselves, we used to watch on TV. Now Ata Abashante.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you know what's the
inspired
beauty
us.
about what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's the very same period that you went overseas.
Yes.
If you think about it quite well. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm just like, you know, you the way that you did things for us when we were growing up, Tina, we used to look up to you and your group and the work that you were doing. And it's like, you know, like, besi right, yabo besnela.
Yeah, we're going to inspiration.
Yeah, bona like bo kutala, bo, you know, and that is what we really want to instill.
Hence, I asked you that question about, are we partly to blame with the music when you look at the conditions now? Because sometimes I sit down and say, hey, is it our fault? Because I'm looking at, and I listen like you said, and sometimes, and I say, hey, maybe I'm too old.
No, look, you can't really blame yourself, beat yourself up. As long as when you were doing umsebenzi with good intentions as a person to say, I want to build people, I want to produce, you know, artists. I mean, what was life without that for us back in the days, guys? I mean, life would have been boring, you know. And what I can say, even though anyone can say whatever, the kind of image that you portrayed with the work that you did, guys, it was a beautiful image. And it was classic and quality, you know. And for us, there was nothing negative, Bafetu. You understand? It was all beautiful. And even now as a young girl, I mean, I could identify myself, you know, with, well, even though I was in sports, but I could still identify with Abashant and say, hey, you know.
I wish I could do
that. So,
in closing, what message do you have for, you know, either your target market or the viewers there or any other funder?
Okay, the message that I have is to say, as a legend, you know, as a proudly born, bred and battered
in the dusty streets
of Soweto, I'm very determined to work with whoever is willing to work with me and my foundation and other structures and other stakeholders, because look, it's a collective effort that's going to bring transformation into the industries. You know, it's not a one-man show, but I'm saying that it's time for us as a country to start having national pride and start looking out for the country and the future of the country. You don't have to be involved, like literally, practically, your contribution, whether it's monetary, whether it's time, because you don't have to be a well qualified someone, guys, to make a difference in the country or in your life or in someone's life. We just need to go back to that basis, ubuntu. Because the only reason now you find so much suffering and all these things are happening is because abantu balahlekele ubuntu. You understand? So let's go back to that point where we think as a united country. Put away our differences. There's a lot of differences happening. A lot of people are suffering in the country. A lot of people are fighting. It's this and that. There's just a lot of differences. I mean, people, let's just come together. Let's value the identity of being South African. And not just African, but African. And say, what do we do as a collective to move forward to change? Even from our structures, government officials, from the political parties. That's why I always say I don't want to affiliate to any political party because I want to maintain my neutral stance. I'm a South African, and I just want to make sure that I contribute my part to making things better for the future generations to come. Going to wherever elokishini mangiselokishini ngisekasi mangibona umntana ganga ngiyakhuza ukuthi ngisekhaya or ngisekasi lakabani mangihlangana no ubafo afuna i2 ngiyamnika ngithi umntana kithi uyabona lento le. We don't have to suffer like this. There's a lot of suffering happening in the country, Arthur.
Wow.
People are suffering. People are going to bed balambile. There's a lot of things that are going wrong. Look at our city, Ingolile. There's all these things and we're not saying anything because everyone is thinking in their own corner. Yabona nje mangatholi 12 million yami next week right. Yabona abantwana bami baye USA, abantwana bami baye London and then seku right. No. Ubuyaphi? Because the bottom line is noma ungaphuma mhlambe elokishini or kuphi. Laphana kula uphuma khona.
Wow, guys, I've learned a lot today, and just like Phindile Duma said, we all need to play our part, and it's about time we play our part. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Phindile Duma.
Hey!